Hi everyone, I'm Tiki, and today we're going to be going over the difference of squares, which is a really common SAT topic. As you can see in this equation below, we have x squared minus 1, and it has no middle value. Like usually with quadratics, we see there being like an x squared plus 2x plus 1 with this in the middle. However, a difference of squares does not have this value in the middle because they cancel out. So first we'll take a look at a normal quadratic and how to factor it, and then we'll use that knowledge to think about a difference of squares. Here's an example of an equation that's been factored properly without a difference of squares. So we'll FOIL this out. So we do x times x and get x squared plus 3x minus 1x minus 3. And we see that we end up with x squared plus 2x minus 3. Then that poses the question, how are we going to get rid of this? Well, the only way to get rid of this 3x would be to subtract 3x. So to subtract 3x in that scenario, we'd have to do x minus 3 times x plus 3. Now let's see how that turns out. Let's start by FOILing this out. So we do x times x, which is x squared, plus 3x. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x, and then negative 3 times 3 is negative 9. We then see that these cancel out, so we get x squared minus 9. Now, what does that look similar to? If you said our first equation, you're right. That looks exactly like the one we did. So what have we learned from this? To get them to cancel out, we have to use the negative and then the positive form. So x minus 3 and x plus 3. Now that we've looked at the example with x minus 3 and x plus 3, let's look at the actual formula. Now in the formula we see that we do a squared minus b squared is equal to a plus b times a minus b. Let's apply that to our example. So x squared minus 9 is equal to x plus, what's the square root of 9? We went over it, it's 3. And then x minus 3. And we already got the answer. So as soon as we see something like this with like x squared minus 16, we should instantly just square root the x and square root the 16 and apply this formula. We get the square root of 16 is 4. So we get x plus 4 times x minus 4. Now honestly, when I do it, I kind of just square root the x automatically, but I do make it a good practice to always just write in the square root symbol over the constant, like the 16, just so I remember to square root that. Now let's apply this to our original example. Now that we've seen how x squared minus 9 can equal x plus 3 and x minus 3, so the x's cancel out, let's apply that here. So what do you notice? The square root of 9 is 3. So we do x plus 3 and x minus 3. So let's take the square root of 1. That's just 1, right? So we're going to do x plus 1 times x minus 1. Now let's check our answer by FOILing it out. So we do x times x, and we get x squared. X times negative 1, we get minus 1x. X times positive 1, and we get plus 1x. And then we do 1 times negative 1, and we get minus 1. Now, this equation will do negative 1x plus 1x, and we simply end up with x squared minus 1. As you can see, this is exactly what we started with. Now, let's try to apply it to an actual problem you'd see within the SAT. This is a common problem type I've actually seen on an SAT that I've taken on multiple practice tests. So let's try to solve it. At first glance, it seems like it's really hard. You're like, how would I even go about doing this? But you have to remember, when you see something like this where there's no bx in the middle, there's no x, simple little x value in the middle, it's most likely going to be a difference of squares. So I always recommend trying that first. As you can see, we can do the square root of 1, and we get just 1. So we'll put x plus 1 times x minus 1, and that's equal to this equation at the, or this expression at the top. Now, with this expression at the top over the bottom, we get x plus 1 times x minus 1 over x plus 1, and that's equal to negative 3. Well, what do we know about division? When two factors are the same, we can cancel them out, and they simply equal 1. So let's just do that here. We get 1 on the bottom and 1 on top times x minus 1. And when those cancel out, we simply get x minus 1 is equal to negative 3. We can then proceed to simply solve the equation normally, and we'll get x, we'll add the 1 to both sides, x equals, what's negative 3 plus 1? We get negative 2. That's the answer to the question. So if it said find x, we'd get x equals negative 2. So what did we learn today? We learned that when you see an equation such as x squared minus 1 or x squared minus 9, x squared minus 4, x squared minus 16, all of these common equations with common square roots, you should immediately think of a difference of squares. You can then factor it by taking the square root of said number, so let's say the square root of 1, and then dividing it into x plus 1 and then x minus 1. You can always check, as I said, by foiling it out, and that's proven to be effective for me all the time as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something about difference of squares, and I hope it comes in use on your SATs. If you look on the link on the left, you'll see the best recommended video for my channel, and you can click on that and watch that for more math topics. If you go on the right, it'll just show my little profile bubble, and I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed. I've tried to make at least one video a week, and I'll keep making more throughout the year.